How intelligent is artificial intelligence? Is it something scary we need to block from our schools? Is it going to replace teachers with a sci-fi, semi-sentient, Star Trekky teacher and a tablet? Or is AI that digital personal assistant that's going to take the drudgery of grading papers and lesson plannings? Join us as we connect you with our naturally intelligent podcast team on our first ever TEC21 Connections podcast. Welcome to the TEC21 Connections podcast. I'm the naturally snarky Dennis Grice, and I'm the assistant to the regional manager of innovation and continuous improvement here at Faith Lutheran High School and middle school here in Las Vegas. And I'd like to welcome my co-hosts, my partners in crime, my co-conspirators, the You Can't Handle the Truth, Stephen Bornheimer, and our own ninja of the non sequitur, Rob Jacklin. Would you guys like to share a little more about yourselves? Introduce yourselves to our audience. How about Stephen?
Sure. Thanks, Dennis, for that awesome intro. My name is Stephen Bornheimer, and I am the Assistant Vice President of Communications at Concordia Theological Seminary in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I taught secondary education in Lutheran schools, both in Michigan and here in Fort Wayne for 13 years. And I've been part of the TEC21 team now for a handful of years. Super excited to be joining in this conversation this evening. And to you, Rob.
Hey, everyone. My name is Rob Jacklin. I am the Instructional Technology Coordinator at Lutheran High School North, or Lutheran North Middle School and High School. It's the full name now. I'm really excited to be part of this. My own personal jam is the whole idea about digital citizenship and helping students and teachers process life at the intersection of digital technology and relationship and self. So excited to be here and then rocking through with it. Dennis, my man.
Yeah. Oh, and I think we've got a killer topic for our first show. The floodgates have opened with AI. Now what? This is our first episode, and I think, are you guys ready to kind of jump into it and attack this topic?
Let's do it, man.
All right, then stay with us. We'll be back right after this with our topic. Okay, we're back, and our topic today is AI's floodgates have opened. Now what? And I think, Stephen, you've kind of been digging in deep on this, and as kind of like, I don't know, I kind of throw to you as like the tech expert in the room. What is exciting about AI? Talk about it. Tell us what you've learned.
Thanks, Dennis. I really love what we've been seeing come out from OpenAI and some of the advances in artificial intelligence, so to speak, in the last couple of months. We know that ChatGPT kind of kicked off this craze last year, and it's been amazing to watch how fast it's going. But I'll be honest, I've been following it, and I've seen a lot of varying opinions about it. A lot of cautionary tales, a lot of people that are really nervous about what it's doing. There's been a lot of conversations about how this is working in education. We know that in February, they did a survey of a lot of different school districts like New York and Los Angeles, and some of the big school districts just not sure how to work with this and have blocked it. And so the real question, right, I think out there is, how are we going to work this in? How are we going to understand what to do with it? And I think that there's a lot of different directions that conversation is going right now.
Well, generally, isn't like the knee-jerk reaction to anything new is like, oh my gosh, kids are going to use this to cheat. We have to block it. And, because that happened when we first started getting, the World Wide Web in classrooms, oh no, we're going to use it to cheat. We have to block it.
Yeah, well, I also think about like spell check. Like, kids won't learn to spell if we have spell check. And, it's kind of true in the sense that, we probably aren't as good at spelling because we rely on the computer to correct our mistakes. I know from personal experience, and all the grammar teachers out there don't, no judgment, but like my E and my I in the word receive, I constantly type it and have to correct it. So, I think that it's one of those things where it's like, I love spell check because it's always catching those little errors. But I think it's kind of like that in the sense that we know it's going to be present. We know it's starting to get baked into things like Google, which is a big part of our educational environment, and things like that. And I think I think it's okay. I want to go on the record by saying I think it's okay for us to be cautious and just start asking the questions about how are our students receiving this technology, using this technology, and where are we going to meet them along their path of, because they're growing up with technology we didn't have. So where are we going to meet them in their own journey through their educational experience?
Kind of like I think dipping your toe in the water and saying, okay, it's okay. We can do this. Just step by step. I know, Rob, you've been digging into some ways that AI can be used in education. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, thanks, Dennis. I would probably say one of the things I've noticed the most is I think it is interesting, for example, that AI has been with us for a lot longer than we think it has, for a lot longer than ChatGPT. That algorithms have been defining what we see and what we hear and what we get exposed to on a regular basis. I think now it's just finally all bubbled to the surface. And then as regular folk, we're actually able to leverage it for ourselves, which I think is really, really cool. Especially as teachers, I don't know how you ever get yourself on an email list and all of a sudden stuff just starts coming to you and you're not exactly sure what you signed up for where. I somehow ended up getting email from an organization called AI for Education. So in then the show notes, we'll probably have a link to a lot of the stuff that we're looking for. But AIforeducation.io, Amanda Bickerstaff is her name. And she actually led a webinar on how to lead PD about AI in schools. And one of the things I just wanted to echo is of the four things that were there, thing number 3, she said, was provide time for teachers to speak about their concerns. So the idea that, hey, it is okay to be afraid about this, and it's okay to let teachers share their concerns, because I think it's that whole empathy listening piece. So if you're an administrator or you're a technology coordinator, allowing your teachers the time to say, hey, I'm kind of weirded out about this, but don't let them stay there. So that well done professional development provides opportunities for you to see what the limitations are of ChatGPT, or I don't know if there's a brand new or relatively new things change daily, it seems. There's an extension called Brisk that integrates directly into Google Docs, where teachers are providing formative assessment opportunities for student writing. There's a lot of really great opportunities that are there, and a lot of them are leveraging that AI, and a lot of it we don't actually see on a regular basis. So it is here, and we should keep having conversations.
Yeah, and those fears are real, and you don't want to discount them. But I think one of the things that helps, because it just seems like, oh, I'm having a conversation. This thing's really intelligent. But in actuality, I mean, I would recommend going to code.org. They have an AI 101 for teachers and just a whole online course on this, because I've been kind of going through that. But one of the things that really sort of like lifted the curtain, to kind of let you see what was under the hood of AI, and how AI works. It's not really intelligence. And they explain it much better than I can here. But essentially what they're talking about is AI is just merely probability and prediction with ginormously huge data sets. But essentially they simple it down by saying, imagine you take just the works of Shakespeare, and you have an algorithm that says, okay, if I put in this word, looking through all the works of Shakespeare, what word is likely to come after that? And then, and you build words and you build phrases, and they're looking at, on what's in the text, what's most likely to come next. Now, if you increase that data set, it's going to sound more and more conversational. It's going to seem really smart, but there's no soul to it. There's no real intelligence. It's just all probability and prediction. And I think that kind of takes a little bit of the fear out of it. This thing can't really think. I mean, it can mimic thinking. It can mimic it really, really well, but it's not really thinking. But what it does do is pretty darn amazing.
Yeah, and along the same lines, it says a lot of people think that AI is going to be the smartest person in the room. And I heard one commentator say, AI is not the smartest person in the room, but it'll do what a hundred monkeys could do, or what 100 dumb people could do. I mean, it's AI is not the smart person in the room, but it's that thing that allows the mundane to get done. Those things that are predictable, those things that the algorithm can predictably work through.
Well, and I think it's cool to think about it too. I mean, some of those things that teachers do, that a lot of what we're doing is repetitive tasks. And it's that digital assistant. I need to write an email to a parent, and I just got writer's block. I just don't know exactly how to say it. Well, say the message that, give the AI the message that you want to say and kind of package that in an email. It's like 500 words. And it's enough to get you started. It's like, okay, yeah, that's what I wanted to say, or now I can just tweak that. Where otherwise you're just kind of sitting there with writer's block going, I don't know what to do, and I've been working at this for a while. But it is using it in that capacity, I think, is really powerful.
I have eSchool News is an online blog, and they put out an article in August about that very thing, Dennis. They said that they were looking at some statistics, and they said, I'm just looking at it here, 54% of time that teachers spend today is on administrative, like repetitive tasks, 54% of their time. And one of the things that they, and quote, AI-powered tools can automate administrative duties such as grading assignments or managing schedules, and allowing teachers to focus more on instruction and give students more support. And it's really interesting. Just after I read that article, I was like, what kind of mundane task in the summer used to take a ton of time for our staff? I was like, creating the schedule. The schedule is a beast, right? You've got all of these different components you're putting in. Well, ChatGPT has at least the ChatGPT 4 has a new feature where you can take a picture of something you're working on, and it will start to work with you on developing patterns and solutions. So I took a picture of one of the sheets from when I was when we were working on schedules at the school that I taught at before coming to the seminary, and within 8 minutes, it had worked out the middle school schedule, two grades at each level, so 2 6th grades, 2 7th grades, 2 8th grades, specials, religion, and basically what I did is I took a picture of the sheet that we would work off from, and then I said prioritize these 8 things in order, and it built tables for each grade level and placed the courses, and then wrote descriptive paragraphs about what compromises had to be made to meet my criteria. And so it was wild, and I've seen in my own workflow, I've seen developers and other people that are working through a solution on a whiteboard. I think as teachers, we find ourselves in faculty meetings or staff meetings doing this, right? We start to sketch something out on a whiteboard, trying to solve a solution. And it's one of those things where you can take a picture of it, feed it to GPT, and it can start to help you kind of sort through some of the patterns because it's been trained on those huge, massive data sets that you were talking about, Dennis.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and even, when we're done with this podcast, we could feed this podcast into AI, have it create a summary, have it, jot down an outline of everything we've talked about, and just kind of, break it down. I mean, we won't even have to write the show notes. We could just have the AI do it.
I know.
And think about that time. Right? So, for those of you watching, maybe we'll do it for kicks and giggles and put an example compared to our show notes. But think about how then that would give us time to go then be with our families sooner than sitting down and working through that collaborative document together. So, that's not necessarily a bad thing to have it summarize our talking points, at least to give us a head start on putting together a document like that. And I think it's an interesting exercise to ask ourselves, what sort of things could be done by something like ChatGPT or some of the Brisk or other things? What could we give it just to see how that would benefit us from a time perspective. The danger here is, of course, we end up with more time. I think we all can agree we have a tendency to fill it. We have a fill it with tasks and other things. But the question is, can we fill it with more time for students? So,
well, my school's always looking for coaches, so you can always use it for that.
I'm most excited to think about it from the perspective of that thing that I know you're talking about athletic coaches, but think like instructional coaches or teacher as mentor, teacher as coach, as opposed to teacher as information conveyor. I mean, there's so much emphasis on formative assessment. I mean, think about the ability to upload a piece of student writing and have some initial formative assessment done for students. And just to think about what that does. If we can get through all the stuff, if you can get through all the grammar conversations and you can get through all the usage conversations and you can get to some of the more meat of student thinking. And that's the stuff that really excites me. And I'm really looking forward to AI really helping out with.
Well, I'm looking forward to digging in and playing with it and, just seeing where it's going to go. I mean, I was playing with GPT-4 today and there's some new tools that have been added that I was just tapping the surface, because originally, ChatGPT-3 was just, it could reference data, but anything like prior to 2021, I think was the limit of its data set. And I just noticed today that GPT-4 has Bing integration where it can use real-time data and sort of go through and search and create answers to your questions or to your prompts by searching Bing. Now, it's a much slower process. And what's fascinating is you watch it, you see it it's searching this site, it's searching this site, it's searching this site, and gave me some answers based on some current data it was finding. It's got the Dolly integration, which is just fun to play with, because it'll create images. And being really the tech nerd that I am, I fed it some of the room descriptions from Zork 1, the Great Underground Empire, so I was able to see, the house with the path going off to the east, or, flood control dam number 7 or whatever it was in there. And it's just kind of creates some cool images. It's like, oh, okay, that could be what it looked like, in my head way back then.
And I'm reminded again with the digital citizenship geek in me, I'm just like, man, more than ever, we really need to keep continuing pushing the idea of information literacy and media literacy. And holy cow,
prompt engineering.
Not only, yes, prompt engineering, like all those different new skills that we have an opportunity to develop. Those are cool.
Think about the new types of writing with that too. I mean, so large language model, AI, thinking is very logical, right? And so, and of course, it's been trained on a lot of illogical content from the internet. But, in my own experience, writing a good prompt for something like ChatGPT or Dolly requires you to really process your steps, to think through what it is, in an orderly way in order to get the best results. And I think concise prompting is a kind of a new kind of writing exercise that really would be neat for our students. You have to, and we ask them to write papers and get their ideas down. We have them do note cards and outlines in a very limited capacity. Writing a good prompt is not much different. You have to feed some initial points to the large language model. So in this, maybe ChatGPT, you've got to kind of very clearly define what exactly it is you want. And then you have to be able to understand what it gives you and modify it along the way, like building an interactive outline for some sort of product or some sort of, whatever it is you're asking it to do. It is a different type of writing, but you still need to be good at it. And you need to be able to, understand what it is that you want it to do. I remember when we have middle schoolers starting to write large essays and papers, they, from the beginning to the end, sometimes they lose their path, right? They segue off into different ideas and things like that. Well, same thing can happen here if you're not being concise, if you don't have an outcome, a goal. And I think our writing should have goals attached to it. Now, I'm not an English teacher, but I had some awesome partner teachers, and they would have the students spend a lot of time looking at how they could, what is it they wanted to get out of their writing? What is it that they wanted to say? How are they going to do that most effectively? So I think it presents a cool opportunity in that way.
It almost sounds like you're describing, the writing process, the prompt revising is almost like when you're writing, you make a rough draft, you look at it, okay, this isn't exactly what I want. Let's make some tweaks with that. And for me, anytime I look at any type of new technology, I always go back to Star Trek, and it's like, okay, this is what they have in Star Trek. You go in the holodeck and you say, okay, make me this, and it's like, okay, well, this isn't close, but change the scenery a little bit, or let's pick a different time era, and you're just constantly tweaking and modifying and letting the computer, take that additional input until you craft something that's exactly what you want. And I think that's the type of thing our students need to be ready to do. And we want to discourage them from just using it as an easy out for assignments and say, well, here's the question, give me the answer, I'll copy and paste the answer and be done. That's not how it should be used, like in a proper way. And perhaps, I know we're running out of time on this show, but I think maybe the idea of, how can students use it productively and not be considered, cheating?
As just a way of wrapping this up, man, I just am more and more concerned about the data sets that AI is getting a hold of. So when we talk about data going out and now it's searching the web, it's like, holy cow, what's on the web? Like, what is it using as a data set? So your prompts are going to be data that's training the AI. And it kind of forces me as a teacher, forces us as teachers, as educators to say, what type of content are we putting on the web that will someday be used as part of the data set? And as God's people in Lutheran schools or in Christian schools, that's exciting, the type of content that we can provide, and to think about, hey, how are we training the AI to match us, to match the values, and to match the identity that God has put on us.
And as we wrap up today, I want to thank Rob and I want to thank Stephen. It's great working with you guys. I look forward to future podcasts with you. And I also want to thank those of you who are listening right now. And if you have any questions or comments about this podcast, what should they do, Rob?
Hey, feel free to reach out to vodcasts@TEC21connect.com if you have questions, or if there are other ideas about information you'd like to hear. Please let us know.
We look forward to having you join us again as we continue to connect, share, inspire, grow, and support one another on this Tech 21 Connections podcast.